Yo, welcome back to another episode of Mailbag Monday by the Money Matters podcast. I am your host, Jack. You got my father, Bill Mallers Jr., and you've got my friend Dylan. We are here on Election Monday. It is Monday, November 4th, 2024. It seems like we've got a tight election. It's a toss-up, and financial markets are moving. Bitcoin is moving, and so we kick it off. We waste no time reads on this podcast because we don't have any ads. We go straight to dollar bill. Dollar bill, you've got a market open on election Monday. What do you think about the price action from Bitcoin? You've got the prediction markets going up and down. Trump's the favorite. Trump's not. Trump's the favorite. Trump's not. What's going on? What do you think?
Anytime you are trading a single issue market, which you are, right? This market is going to react dramatically. And right now, as far as we can tell, it's 50-50. It is going to react. All asset markets are basically, as we've said prior, every asset market that I can find is basically a derivative of the predicted market, right? I mean, that's all. You may as well go trade the predicted market, because if you're trading the Dow or gold or Bitcoin, you are, you're basically trading a derivative of the predict market. Starting at this time tomorrow, you're going to be trading a derivative of the exit polls, and then you're going to be trading the derivative of the early returns. The best analogy I have strong memories of Gore-Bush deadlock. I believe it took till the end of the week to declare a winner, or how many days? Or the month, sorry, correct. But it took a while. And I was not trying to trade through that, but I was a risk manager, and I can say that was probably the longest week of my career, right? Because I don't think I slept, because it was Bush, and markets, always financial markets tend to like Republicans better anyways, but Bush, with his oil background, was seen as being favorable to certain market segments. I had a lot of oil traders. I mean, that was up, down, up, down. Like I said, I don't think I slept that week. My advice, as you know, I was always trained. You're going into a binary. You're heading into 4th of July weekend, and the crops are under stress. If it rains, it'll be down the limit. If it doesn't, it'll be up the limit. How am I supposed to? I got into this position because, I understand the supply-demand fundamentals. I have connections with exporters, and now I'm a weatherman. I've always been of the opinion to just even up, take a deep breath, and I will see you when the dust settles. If you do want to try to trade through this very contentious election, I would say whatever's worked for you in the past. If you've been a DCA type of guy, or you're a technical trader, you've bought off of support levels. I know moving averages have been worked well for technical type traders. Continue doing that. If you're like me, even up, right? Go to the beach, go to the right, and I will see you on Friday. That's my advice. Plus the fact that, we've had a great year. Like, looking across assets, I usually start with just the top down. Our theory has been, with the Dow up 23%, gold up 38%, the Case-Shiller index is up 5%. One thing, all different asset classes, all showing nice gains, but the only thing they have in common really is that they are all denominated in dollars. I think they're all an expression of a short dollar trade. We think, monetary authorities are not there's too much fragility, too much volatility with an election for monetary authorities to assert, too much discipline. I think they're going to be hands off. And so, I continue to be positioned from the long side. But as far as doing anything active around the next couple of days, like I said, I will see you all on Friday, because after the dust settles, I have strong, like I said, Bush Gore might have been the worst couple of weeks of my career as a risk manager. I lost so many customers, no matter how you were positioned. If you were positioned for one side, then you got blown out. then, the other side got blown out, back. It's lost a lot of customers getting chopped around in that nonsense. Unless you have some particular insight into polling data, I'm going to sit this out and see you when the dust settles.
Yeah, I think let's just start from the top. Financial markets prefer Trump. Why? Is that because financial markets like the color of his hair or like the color of it? No, the financial markets like Trump because he's all about growth. He wants to cut taxes. He wants to enable business. His whole idea is to subsidize and finance the government through tariffs, give money back to the economy so that the economy can focus on growth. So that's a very risk-on growth, assets go up type of approach. Now, Harris, I think, listen, we're all about on this podcast, no matter what, the dollar's got to go down, no matter what, Bitcoin's got to go up. It's the only fixed money in the history of mankind. I think Harris has a similar message or approach, whether she likes it or not. It's probably just more annoying and convoluted and confusing just by the way that she sounds, to be quite honest with you. But Trump has been very clear, very open, very transparent. And I think financial markets prefer that. Another thing, financial markets do not like uncertainty. They do not like uncertainty. They will wait for certainty. And so I think also what you've seen, especially in Bitcoin, is Bitcoin's not going to move until there's certainty as to what's going on, especially because we know when we'll get certainty. There is an election. There has to be a result. And Bitcoin will likely start to move and show you how it feels about it once we get certainty. Another thing about trading this election, financial markets over the last few weeks have started to price in a Trump victory. So if you do want to trade the election, honestly, it's the risk return is a little dubious now because Bitcoin's already started to price in Trump winning. So if Trump wins, you've kind of already if you're going to go margin long, you've kind of already lost a lot of the upside versus a Harris victory. So I think when you've seen Bitcoin chop around based on prediction market movings and stuff, it's adjusting itself downwards because I think this is one of the more interesting points. The prediction market, think of it like a coin flip. The prediction market, listen, the election I think is much more 50-50 than people make it out to be. In the same way that every time you flip a coin, it's always 50-50. It's always 50-50. Even if the last 1,000 times was heads, the way statistics work, statistical math is it's always 50-50, probability math. And with an election, I think this is actually much closer to 50-50. But obviously, if you flipped a coin 10 times or 100 times in a small sample size, it's not going to be 5-5 or 50-50. If you have a small enough sample size, there's a derivation based on the existing universe. We don't have enough versions of the universe to run these experiments in parallel to get it absolutely correct. So people are going based on Elon Musk or based on things they're seeing on their Twitter feed, and they're placing these bets on prediction markets. And so, yes, the amount of capital pledged thing has a slight edge to Trump. But I think the idea that Trump at any point had a 70% chance of winning, I think the markets started to misprice the actual probability of his victory versus like a coin flip, if that makes sense to you guys. So I think speculators are in charge. That's obvious. So what's a speculator? A speculator is not a buy and hold. A speculator is not a hodler. A speculator is someone that's gambling, that's taking inside information, that's running quantitative trades, it's drawing lines on charts. That's what a speculator. Speculators are in charge. They're tossing money in prediction markets. They're placing leverage bets on Bitcoin. They're trying to catch knives in these volatile times. So my advice is to buy and hold. No matter who gets elected, Bitcoin's going to go up. If Trump gets elected, it's probably going to go up faster. If Harris gets elected, we might dip 20-30%, and then the next day go back to normal price action, and the government's going to debase no matter what. So I would say DCA, buy and hold. Speculators are in charge. Be patient. Markets like certainty. They don't like uncertainty. They don't like unknown risks. They don't like the fact that our country might be in a digital civil war over the next few weeks of who actually won and who's going to finally say, I lost. When are we, either candidate, when are we going to hear them say, I lost? And so I say, sit this one out, be very careful. And I think the world doesn't appreciate how close this race is because of prediction markets. It's very much like coin flip math. Do you agree with that, Dad?
So everybody knows it's 50-50. I don't think anybody looked at a prediction market and thought, let's start pricing in one side or the other. I mean, it's been at or around.
Yeah, but
wide,
if you treat Twitter influencers as experts, you got people on Twitter looking at the prediction markets and going, Trump won 70% chance. Like, no, you idiot. That's not how statistical math works. But anyway, I digress.
As far as markets tending to like Republicans, and in this case, liking Trump better. That's always been the case. I think financial markets tend to think that Democrats are more redistribution oriented when it comes, right? Well, you didn't build that, and build from the bottom up and everything. Whereas, Republicans traditionally are more trickle down. We'll make it good, easy to make money, and that'll lift all boats. So there are two, and the markets reflect two very different approaches, and they do not like a redistribution style approach to markets. So in general, yeah, any election, financial markets are going to look more favorably on a Republican. But in this one, you've got the Republican candidate who is talking openly about, right, a Bitcoin strategic reserve, as well as freeing Ross Ulbricht on day one. I mean, that is a OG Bitcoiner's dream come true. And I know nobody wants to hear that because Trump has a foul past, particularly with women. I know Cookie probably doesn't want to hear that, but you get a chance. This might be our only chance to get Ross out, right? You get a chance to free Ross, and you get a chance for this country to put Bitcoin into its strategic reserve. That's going to have effects potentially for taxation down the line, right? And budget deficits. It's going to have a lot of trickle down good effects. I think there's a lot on the line in this election. But as far as trading it goes, I have that 50-50 stuff, like I tell you, it is, I will leave that to y'all 27-year-olds. I'm not in the mood for going through another sleepless Bush Gore, back and forth and trying to manage a position during that I'm going to sit it out.
Well, and just so people know, because sometimes we get, and I hope we continue to get, newcomers into the industry. If you're a Bitcoiner and you've been in the space for 6 weeks, 6 months, even a few years, you might not remember Bitcoin crashed over 50%, I think, in a day. It fell to $3,000 in March of 2020 on all the COVID news. Because again, Bitcoin is the most free market in the world. It's the truest expression of the collective conscious of humanity in a market, in financial, time, energy, expressive ways. And so it always reacts first, and it always reacts most aggressively because it doesn't have circuit breakers. It doesn't have time off. It doesn't have centralized actors that can protect it. It's the most natural expression. And so when COVID happened, Bitcoin tanked, but then it went from 3,000 to 70,000. And so Bitcoin, it's not beyond Bitcoin to be extremely volatile and truly express the emotions that all of us are feeling right now, because my dad's right. Whether you like it or not, there is a lot on the line in this election, a lot on the line. And depending on what you care about, obviously our listeners care about Bitcoin, but there's a plethora, there's an array of topics that people care deeply about. Everything is on the line. And so naturally, human emotion is going to be extremely volatile. So I expect Bitcoin to be extremely volatile because, again, it's the only market that people can't control. And so I would seriously sit this one out over the long term, just like we saw we saw COVID. Bitcoin went down to $3,000 and then it 20x'd. I expect the same type of behavior. Over the long term, it's going to be the best performing asset as we know it to be. But over the next few weeks, it's anyone's bet, and you got to be really, really careful.
Yeah. So you think the Bitcoin price right now is kind of just telling you to sit it out and wait? Because I think the COVID example is it's a great window into how Bitcoin can how the Bitcoin price can more accurately like future forecast events. And what I mean by that is when COVID hit in March, they're like, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And the Bitcoin price was telling me basically like 2 weeks my ass. Like this is way worse than people think. And so with the price, kind of trading sideways into an election day, is that your take, that it's kind of just telling you to sit and wait? Has it priced in a winner at this point?
No, it doesn't like uncertainty. No, of course not. Listen, what happened with COVID? We had officially from our government, I think people forget, on the White House website from our government, there was on the website that said, if you're vaccinated, you did the right thing. If you're not vaccinated, you're contributing to murdering people. That was like from our government. And we were under the impression we couldn't leave the house. We were all under attack by a virus and everyone's life was at risk. The economy had to shut down. Everything in the S&P was falling. Bitcoin reacted to that, said, is the world unraveling as we know it? And then when financial authorities came out and said, no matter what happens, we're going to make sure your assets are protected and that they'll go up in price, and we're going to inject as much liquidity and as much stimulus into the economy as absolutely necessary to make sure that nobody is poor, then Bitcoin went to 70,000. And that's, again, Bitcoin is the most natural expression of the world we know it. And so when you look at a chart, it's expressing currency debasement in dollar terms. But over the next few weeks, it's going to express. So Bitcoin seems relatively undecided. One day it's going up because Trump did something. One day it's going down because Pennsylvania prediction markets change. It doesn't know because nobody knows what's going on. And it's extremely volatile. It's extremely emotional. It's extremely vulnerable. And so, and I think that's how America feels right now.
Well, as far as your question, Dylan, does it look like markets are beginning to price in one side or the other? No. As a matter of fact, prediction markets are dead to the penny. Look at this. Bid offer Donald Trump, 48 bid at 53. Kamala, 47 bid at 54. That's the same. That's the same. No, this is, I don't see anywhere on the screen in any financial market, predict markets. Like I said, the financial markets are trading as a derivative of the predicted markets, and the predicted markets are dead 50-50. I don't see any tea leaves to read here. I think if you're going to try to actively trade this week, get ready for, you're going to start trading, like I said, exit polls at midday and then early returns. And yeah, it's prepare for volatility. No, I know what you're thinking. Aren't you guys supposed to love volatility? You're speculators, right? Why don't you guys all go trade 30-day T-bills? They never move. No, of course we like the volatility. That's opportunity and stuff. But 50-50 volatility that I just have no insight. I have no insight into polling data. And so this type of this type of uncertainty is not attractive to me as a speculator.
To nobody.
Right.
So I don't think anyone, you could pull anyone in America, no matter where they're from or what they believe. I don't think anyone's having a great time going through this election. This is a good time to remind our customers. We built Strike, so the company I founded and am the CEO of, not for speculators necessarily. We only provide Bitcoin financial services. And so our classic customer and I myself, and I think everyone on this podcast, primarily, we buy and hold. We buy and hold. We take a lot of the risk out. We don't trade Bitcoin because we believe it's better money. And over the long term, it's going to be the best performing asset and the best place to store our wealth. And so it's a good reminder, especially for those new, the meme of Hoddle. Sometimes you think, you hear people say Hoddle stands for hold on for dear life. No, it doesn't. I think it's amazing. I don't know if anyone's ever done this on a podcast. So I'm going to share my screen. And for audio listeners, I will read where Hoddle actually came from. Hoddle came from a Bitcoin talk post. There's an old Bitcoin retro forum where someone posted, I am hodling. And he was drunk, as you'll learn in a second. So he meant holding, but he just mistyped because he'd been drinking. and he wrote, I typed that title twice. Pretty much everything's misspelled wrong. I typed that title twice because I knew it was wrong the first time. Still wrong. Whatever. Girlfriend's out at a lesbian bar. Bitcoin crashing. Why am I hodling? I'll tell you why. It's because I'm a bad trader, and I know I'm a bad trader. Yeah, you good traders can spot the highs and the lows, pit, pat, piffy, wing, wong, wang, just like that, and make $1 million. Sure, no problem, bro. Likewise, the weak hands are like, oh no, it's going down. I'm going to sell. He. And then they're like, oh God, my asshole. When the smart traders, what the they're doing, buy back in. But you know what? I'm not part of that group. When the traders buy back in, I'm already part of the market capital. So guess who you're cheating, day traders? Not me. Those taunt threads saying, oh, you should have sold. Yeah, no, I should have sold. I should have sold moments before every sell and bought moments before every buy. But you know what? Not everybody is as cool as you. You only sell in a bear market if you are a good day trader or an illusion noob. The people in between hold. In a zero-sum game such as this, traders can only make money if you sell to them. So I've had some whiskey. Actually, on the bottle, it's spelled whiskey. Whatever, sue me, but only if it's payable in Bitcoin. That is the most legendary post of all time. That is what hodling is, and that's where it comes from, and that's how I feel right now. My girlfriend is hopefully not at a lesbian bar, but even if she was, I am hodling through this election. I am not selling to the traders.
If you can, let me add one more thing on when bear markets in Bitcoin. If you characterize them two ways, there are like macroeconomic, if the Fed's tightening or the economy's going into recession, yeah, all asset markets are going to be under pressure. But oftentimes Bitcoin bear markets are event markets. Mt. Gox seizure, or Silk Road seizure, or Silk Road seizure with all the coins that were going to be auctioned. That was a big break. And Mt. Gox going down. But if you look back on both of those events were just awesome breaks to buy, right? I think Draper took $1 billion off of one of those trades. When I think he bought the seized Silk Road coins, right? Whatever, in the 600s, like 30,000 of them. So no, event markets have always been good breaks to buy. Macro macro bear markets, not so much. So this is an event, right? So if you get, a Democratic sweep that whooshes this market, that is probably a good break to buy, right?
That's a good point.
But because it's not that is not the result of a macro event. It is the result, unless Democratic policies do, they are, but everybody, even with a Democratic victory, I think most market thinks that's going to lead to gridlock and not a lot of higher taxation and restrictions and price controls and everything like all those election type of talking points. You would need a real Democratic sweep to start, capping. Like I always say, you do not elect these people for their economic insights. The two worst ideas I've ever heard to address price inflation is capping prices. That's a guaranteed shortage in our future, and hoarding, and therefore higher prices. You're going to get the opposite. And what does the other guy, want to build the wall to or put tariffs on imports? I mean, those are just the worst. Never have worked whenever they've been tried, economic ideas, but we don't elect these people for their insights into markets, right? We just have to trade around them. So that's, again, I think markets prefer gridlock because then nobody's going to muck with markets too much, and we're left to our own devices.
Yeah.
In an accommodative, debt debasement, fiat debasement, atmosphere where, I think all monetary authorities have leaned accommodative all year long, right? If you're expecting a quarter cut, you got a half, right? That has been the story in Japan, the ECB, and the US and the Fed. So I think once we get this election out the way, as long as it's not a sweep, then I think we can resume on the uptrend. But
it's a good point.
I'm not a gambler. This is too close to playing black red on a roulette wheel for me.
No, but it's a good buy the dip point. So listen, listen, Bitcoin's going up forever. And so it's always Bitcoin's going up forever. That means it's always a good time to buy Bitcoin. That's just math. If you subscribe to the idea that Bitcoin's better money and superior technology, and that it should go up against everything because it's the only fixed asset, then you could buy Bitcoin at any point and it's going to end up being a good buy. But my dad's point's a good one in that what we've seen historically is Bitcoin goes through these bull and bear cycles. It's very cyclical. And we're not in a bear market. And so if Bitcoin does dip, that's what he's calling an event. So you've got Mt. Gox, you've got COVID, you've got, ETF denials back in the day. Bitcoin used to move 10, 20, 30% when the Winklevoss got denied for their ETF. And so if we get an event dip, it's a good opportunity to BTFD. Now that does stand for something. That is not from a forum. That stands for buy the dip. And so it would be a good opportunity to buy the dip if you have cash. I live on sats. I don't have any cash. So I'm hodling through no matter what, through lesbian bars and all. But it's a good point that this dip would be an event dip. Those rebound traditionally almost immediately. And it's a good opportunity if you have cash on the table on the side. Okay, well, I don't know where do we go from here? I've said I don't want this to be a political podcast. I think politicians are all Muppets, of course. And the real change is Cypherpunk's right code.
What do we do about that? I told you, I don't want to be a weatherman either, but sometimes if you got a position in a grain market and stuff, right? There's nothing you can do about it. Trading the predict markets right now. And in 24 hours from now, you will be trading exit polls.
Yeah, 24 hours. No, I just
trading, right? And depending on who wins, you got to be trading who that person is going to put into their administration. I mean, there's so much unknowns, right? If the Democrats win, we don't know who's running Treasury, or right. Trump, at least we have some history with. We've had him once before. Second term presidencies, particularly with personalities like Trump, probably bring more uncertainty. But we've had the guy before, so we're whereas this Democratic administration, I don't think we know who's in the cabinet or what they're right, but that's intentional, right? You do put a lot of specifics in your policy statements, right? It's better to run on hope and change, right? And build it back better, right? And how are you going to do that? We're going to balance the budget. Oh, okay. Who are you going to tax? Because that industry is going to go down hard. Well, we'll leave the details, right, till afterwards. But that seemed like the intentional vagueness leads to the uncertainty in the markets, and that's another reason this is just going to be a really hard week to trade. Yeah,
I mean, markets don't like uncertainty, and there's a lot of uncertainty. I think that is the best quote of this. I expect Bitcoin to go on a really massive run in 2025. I think if Trump wins, it probably starts that run a little earlier. If Kamala wins, I was going to say if Trump loses, that's really what this is about. It's either Trump wins or Trump loses. No one even knows who's running our country right now. Has anyone seen Biden recently? So it's really like you either like Trump or you don't like Trump. But then financial assets and markets probably dip. But again, I think 2025, why 2025 is because we're going to get certainty. Someone has to get sworn into office. Then we'll know who's staffed. And then we'll know how things will work. And I think there's a lot of clarity that the world is going to get over the next few months. And between now and then, again, you can speculate and try and play the game. The way I'm playing it is I'm long Bitcoin every second of my life. I don't like being short Bitcoin, even a penny. And so I'm hodling all the way through it. But I think that's what you'll see. And anyone's guess over the next 60 days. When do they get sworn in? January 6th, 7th, something like that?
Swearing in, I don't know, but
Well,
yeah,
that's
probably.
isn't that when Trump like actually admitted he lost? Was like the day before Biden took office or something? Because that could be the case, like, right? Like we won't actually have anyone accept defeat for 2 months. It's possible. It happened last time, didn't it?
I think Inauguration Day is January 20th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in any event,
It'll hopefully be settled before the swearing in ceremony, but yeah, the fact that it quite possibly will not be settled in the near term is almost impossible to trade around.
yeah. And the unknowns, right? Like to my dad's point, we don't know. I think Kamala was asked a question yesterday, and she said, well, it's the Sunday before the election. I'm not going to tell you my policy, which is insane. We have to wait till after you get elected to know how you're going to run the country. But that just shows you the level of unknowns. Like we didn't even know who the Democratic nominee was going to be for a little while. So markets don't like unknowns. Again, the S&P is performing really well for totally different reasons. I think Bitcoin is the most natural expression and the most true form of consciousness throughout the world. And Bitcoin's been in the same range for the last 6 months because I think the world has been generally confused and uncertain for the last 6 months. Who's going to be the president? Who's a Democratic nominee? What's their policies? Like nobody knows anything. The nominee for the Democratic Party that has a 50% chance winning wouldn't even tell us how she's going to run the country. Hey, how do you plan on running the country? Oh, I can't tell you that until you elect me.
In that vacuum, the presumption is, particularly with someone of Harris's background, age, experience, heft, is that she's probably not going to be able to push back against the Democratic Party. Prominent Democrats, right, are part of an anti-crypto army, right? Liz Warren, Gary Gensler, right? So if you have a new person on the scene, is she got the political chops to push back and, educate herself on this issue and, build America's strategic reserve and make this a place where crypto companies who start people at 6-figure jobs, for crying out loud. Why you would want to make an enemy out of this industry? Good Lord. But that's the problem, that the markets don't feel that she has enough, right, experience, heft, or specifics. Like you said, we don't even know where you stand on certain issues, and we don't know who you're putting in your cabinet yet.
Let me ask you a question, though.
That uncertainty, they strongly are going to favor Trump.
Yeah.
And like I said, the fact that Trump talks openly about freeing Ross Ulbricht and adding Bitcoin to it, and Bitcoin's going to be made in America, whatever that means, it's a night and day for this market. And a 50-50 election, like I say, I'll go play the roulette wheel before I'm going to try to trade through this market.
Playing a little bit of devil's advocate, though, like Kamala hasn't come out and said much about crypto, and I think that's because, like, looking at the stack rank of issues that voters care about, I was looking at this list, and I have no idea how this data is comprised, so take it with a grain of salt. But the list seemed to suggest that crypto was at the very bottom, meaning the general American, at least according to this polling data, in terms of election issues, crypto's at the very bottom. She had 60 days to even have a chance at pulling this off, and so her lack of focus or lack of public position on crypto, I think makes a ton of sense, given you have inflation, you have the economy, you have.
Well, let me ask my question. I don't think, but we're talking about crypto. You guys keep saying crypto. This is not a crypto podcast. I think Bitcoin isn't affected by any of this. I mean, listen, short-term price, sure, but there's not been a war on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's ETF got approved, like strikes banked by banks. I think there's a war on crypto. Yes, the Democrats have. I think Bitcoin is not attacked. Let me put it to you that way. You guys think Bitcoin's attacked? I think crypto's attacked. People fly that around too often.
The IRS has has targeted Bitcoin companies egregiously. I've been through an audit. Yes, we have been targeted by this government, obviously. The IRS has been heavy-handed. Go ask Coinbase how much fun they have. If they had to do over again, they have guaranteed.
Coinbase is a coin exchange. That's my point. People fly this around too much of like, this is a war on crypto. I don't give a crypto. I think Ethereum and Solana and all these things, Gensler's going to continue to fire lawsuits at everyone. That hasn't affected my life at all. At all. It doesn't matter. Like, Bitcoin is not a security. Bitcoin is generally accepted. Bitcoin has an ETF. Like, large asset allocators are building Bitcoin positions. Paul Tudor Jones is on CNBC saying there's inflation no matter how you slice it, no matter which direction politicians choose. I'm long Bitcoin. I mean, yes, maybe, but the IRS thing is not a war on Bitcoin. The IRS thing, the Democrats are going to war on anyone that makes money in this country. Kamala said she wanted an unrealized capital gain. So I don't think that's a war on Bitcoin. That's just a war on anyone that achieves anything in America, which is a problem. But I just think that there's this idea that, like, Democrats have been battling Coinbase. Coinbase is not a Bitcoin company. I don't.
Yeah, a war on crypto is like to suggest that, okay, yes, are there lower hanging fruits from devs who have printed coins in their basement and marketed them to the public? There's lower hanging fruits, but I think the precedent against Bitcoin, and I think that that would just be where they start. They start with the lower hanging fruits, but eventually that trickles down. I mean, Operation Choke Point 2.0 was awful. It was awful for the entire industry, whether you're a Bitcoin company or a crypto company. The banks don't see it, really any other way, or at least in our experience, it was awful.
Again, I think you're being really emotional. Because Operation Choke Point 2.0 was before BlackRock had a listed ETF. Bitcoin's up over 100% year over year. There's an ETF. Banks are working with us. Banks are advocating that they want rule change so they can custody sailors' Bitcoin and start offering loans. What is the biggest, one of the biggest financial institutions in the world is announcing they're piloting Bitcoin banking activity. Listen, is it possible that government attacks Bitcoin? Yes. Am I sitting here acting as a statist on this podcast? No. But are people saying that Gensler's war against Brian Armstrong listing unregistered securities is to be extrapolated as if the Democrats are going to get in Bitcoin's way? Yes. Bitcoin's going to win no matter what. It's been winning under Biden for the last 18 months. It's been slaughtering performance against any other thing. It's been making massive progress. If Kamala wins, I see that changing zero. Now, if I run a Bitcoin scam, is Kamala a threat to my Bitcoin scam? Probably, yes, because Democrats have been very aggressive as filing lawsuits and trying to shut down and imposing themselves on people. But Bitcoin's been on a tear the last 18 months. What are we talking about?
This hypothetical question. You're not a Bitcoiner, but you've been hearing about, your buddy's doubling his money and this and that. You've been hearing about it. It's all over the place. You sit down with your financial advisor at the year end and ask him, what do you think? And he said, well, BlackRock's long. It's shown great performance. The outlook looks good. However, you have a very antagonistic regulatory, and you will probably get audited by the IRS. So it's up to you. Now, take another. Do you think I should, sir? Well, it's performed splendidly. BlackRock's long, Larry Fink's long, everything looks good. And by the way, the United States has it as a strategic reserve and is looking, to leverage that. So no, you are not going to get an IRS audit. What do you think? The average guy, the average person, ability to function through an IRS audit. They did ours for 11 months.
Dad, what the are you talking about? Re-listen to the podcast. My question is
regulatory. If this government adopts a pro-Bitcoin stance, the odds of you going through what I've been through, what you've been through, what every OG Bitcoiner's been through with the IRS goes away. How is that not bullish?
Listen to the podcast back after it launches. My question wasn't, is Trump better for Bitcoin than Kamala? My question wasn't, my statement wasn't Kamala's better for Bitcoin. Of course, Trump is better for Bitcoin. Of course, a weaker, lesser staffed IRS. Relax. Hold on. You got to let me finish. My question is this idea that Democrats are having a war on crypto being extrapolated too aggressively to mean it's bad for Bitcoin? I think Bitcoin wins no matter what. I think even if we have 4 more years of Democrats, they're not going to get in Bitcoin's way. If at all, if anything, slightly. It's more a war on crypto. It's more a war on Coinbase. Bitcoin has been relatively unaffected. Of course, a Trump presidency is better for Bitcoin. Of course, lesser taxes is better for Bitcoin. Of course, lesser staffed IRS is better for Bitcoin. I never, ever said otherwise. It's just to make the point that a war on crypto has not been a war on Bitcoin. It doesn't necessarily mean a war on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's made unbelievable institutional progress despite Democrats being at a war on Bitcoin the last 18 months. So when you log on to Twitter and you see people say Kamala's going to ruin our industry, whose industry? Is that a coiner? Is that a coin exchange? Is that a coin evangelist? Or is that a Bitcoiner? Because Bitcoin's been making progress and I don't think anyone can stop it at this point. That's all I'm saying. I'm not advocating for the IRS. You guys don't make me look like a status IRS agent on this podcast because I did not say that.
But I'm saying, right? I'm supposed to do. Yeah, I like making money, and no, it is going. And I've been trading this market from the long side, and as we've been saying,
I don't like making money.
Not going to work with a lot of Democratic uncertainty until we get more clarity. This market is not going to perform. And that's why this election is going to be a very binary, right? It's like heading into a 3-day weekend in a drought market. It's either going to rain and we're down the limit, or it's not and we're up the limit. There's not a lot of nuance I see in trading this. That's too close to gambling for me, and I would not try to trade through this week. It's
maybe I'm not articulating it well. My point is, Trump's better for Bitcoin, obviously, especially in the near term, but over the long term, it doesn't matter. And that this idea that like a Democrat,
that's different than what you were saying.
What was I saying? No, Dylan, what was I saying? I'm curious.
No, 10 years from now, I agree. It's not going to matter.
No, not 10 years from now, 10 weeks from now, a few months from now, it won't matter.
Well, let me ask you. So any other event, and as I said, I put this as an event like a Mt. Gox, like collapse, or, seizures, failures, exchange failures, Silk Road, etc. I put that in that event. If you'd have said, it's not going to matter and bought it, yeah, the market lost 35%, and it took a while to recover that. Those are breaks to buy, but you better know what you're doing if you're going to try to trade through those things. If you're not, then you're right. Then dollar cost average, turn the screen off and don't try. Hold on. And there's no reason to interview me. I'm not. I'm a swing.
So hold on. Let me ask you this then. Maybe we differ. You're saying that this is like a Mt. Gox event where it took years for the industry to recover. If Kamala wins, you think it's going to take years for Bitcoin to recover? Because I don't. I think Bitcoin's making new highs over the next 2 months, no matter what. That's my point. Is that Bitcoin's going to win no matter what? Now, would I be really long?
Legendarily great break to buy, and Draper beat us all to it. I was trying to buy. I was hoping for a sloppy auction, and he bid over the market price, and that was one of the best trades I've seen in my career. Yeah, if a Democratic win and the asset and the turmoil in the asset market there's gonna be opportunity there. I just said that at a 50-50 where I have no insight into it. Like I said, if I have insight into whether it's an earnings report on NVIDIA or something, okay, I've got an opinion. I'll trade that. I don't have any opinion on a 50-50 on polling data. I have no insight into that. So to me,
Dylan, I want to hear what I said.
No, my take on what you just said is that historically the government has set precedents on things and then massively expanded the scope of that precedence. An example of that's the 16th Amendment. We introduced income tax, I believe, at a 1% clip to high net worth individuals. Now you have anyone from billionaires to Taco Bell workers getting slammed by income tax, right? So the government's ability to set precedent and then expand that scope is tried and true. It's proven. And so to suggest that they're going to, launch a war against crypto and then, we're just going to leave that Bitcoin thing alone, that's there's no way that you actually believe that if
What?
What?
You're taking some historical 16th Amendment and applying some like speculative extrapolation. So now we're just speculating on the state, which is another good time for me to set the example that like the amount of belief that Bitcoiners give to Trump too, like who knows if Trump's going to follow through on 10% of the things he said. And that's not a knock against Trump. The point is, we don't know. Can the government attack Bitcoin at any point? Yes. But why, like over the last 18 months, Bitcoin has done everything it's needed to do. It's gotten the regulatory clarity. It's gotten Wall Street adoption. It's got banking adoption. It's growing. It is not crypto. It's outperforming Ethereum. It's destroying Ethereum. So you're going to sit here on a podcast and tell me because the 16th Amendment, speculative extrapolation, that like that's going to change? It might, Dylan. But my point is to the internet, there's no proof. There's no proof. If the existing war on crypto continues like it has been over the last 18 months, that isn't going to change my life because over the last 18 months, it hasn't changed my life. I'm not long Solana. I don't run an exchange. I don't elicit and sell unregistered securities. None of that has impacted me. And so if nothing changes and it's another 4 years, none of it's going to impact me. Now, if the government does like a gold 6102 or some 16th Amendment that you're saying, then yes, like of course. And I think in either direction, like over the long term, there's always a risk that the government comes and tries to seize our assets. Bitcoiners talk about that all the time. I just went on a rant about that to counteract Michael Saylor. But like we're speculating now. Now you're speculating on like, you're just speculating. Like you might as well speculate on Trump too. Like, is he actually going to do the things he said? Who knows? Like we're just guessing at this point, right?
No.
What?
There is
you know Trump? What?
No, I mean, dude.
Wait, here's what I do know. Here's what I know. Jamie Dimon, when asked, flippantly, famously, flippantly, arrogantly said, if I were in charge, I would shut down Bitcoin. Trump has said, if you elect me, I will put it on my strategic reserve and free.
I'm not talking about
wildly different things. No, how can you say I'm a speculator? Yes, if your point is in 10 years from now it won't matter, I agree. But I like getting paid, and I like volatility. I'm looking to make some money, this year.
I'm not talking about Donald Trump.
50-50 election. This person will be in, one side will put this guy in their administration who's famously said he would look to shut Bitcoin down. The other guy is famously looking to free Ross Ulbricht and put it in the strategic reserve. I mean, come on, this is a
I'm
wild.
not talking about Donald Trump. Dad, has Kamala Harris been in office the last 18 months? Yes or no?
I don't know what, has she the president? No, she's
she's been in office. Have the Democrats been at war with crypto over the last 18 months? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. No, come on.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Has Bitcoin gotten an ETF approved in the last 18 months?
Yeah, so is ETH.
Has Bitcoin been okay? So then has Bitcoin been up 150% over the last 18 months? More actually, probably.
Right.
So my point is the war on crypto
added to the strategic reserve of this nation, Bitcoin wouldn't be up a far more than it is.
Fine. How about this? If Kamala wins, you guys sell me your Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's going to win no matter what. I don't think about if you guys are so like the world's going to end. Sell me your Bitcoin if Kamala wins. How about that?
And what on earth are you talking about? I'm just saying. I've been trading from alongside this year, and I'd like to make some money, and it's going to be harder to do that under the uncertainty of a Harris administration.
I never said it wasn't. I said their war on crypto has been on not Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been able to achieve and grow and do everything it's needed to do. It has regulatory clarity from the SEC. Public companies are buying it. The biggest asset allocators in the world are buying it. This war on crypto has not been a war on Bitcoin. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to, I can tell how much you love Trump. I'm not trying to talk about Trump. Nothing to do with Trump. I'm just saying the war on crypto from the Democrats has been about unregistered securities and coins and Coinbase. It hasn't impacted my life at all. So if they win, I'm not fearful. I don't think they're going to come. I think Bitcoin wins no matter what. I think it's more a war on the rest of the industry. That's all I'm saying.
but Bitcoin is going to go down if the Democrats win. Is all I'm
So
saying.
was the S&P 500. But like that doesn't mean anything. We just did a whole podcast
Yes,
about
it does. If you're a speculator, it does. Yes, it does. If I'm trading S&P 500s, of course I have an interest in who's going to win. I have to have an opinion because
But that's not, Dad, that's not the point. That wasn't the initial topic of the
Why
conversation.
ask me? I'm a
You're-
trader.
This
I'm
is a
not. Yes,
wild way to end this
if
podcast.
you're asking me, is the world a better place 10 years from now on a Bitcoin standard? Of course it is. If you're asking me, how am I going to trade, which is presumably why you're talking to a speculator. How are you going to trade?
No, that's not the question I asked you at all. I didn't say, hey, speculate on the election. That was the 30 minutes prior. I said the war on crypto has not been a war on Bitcoin. Bitcoin shockingly has a lot of regulatory clarity, a lot of institutional support, a lot of banks that want to support and grow Bitcoin customers want to have Michael Saylor as a customer. I never asked you to speculate on it. That was not my point. You keep changing it into that. I don't want to talk about that. We talked about that the whole podcast.
I disagree with you that this industry has a far easier time under a Republican administration than a Democrat.
I never said otherwise. That's not my point.
This guy in the administration.
I didn't say that.
Yeah. All right. I think you guys are making two different points here.
Oh my
this
God,
point-
I just wanted to talk about the fact that
I
a
think
war
you
on
guys agree
crypto
more
is
than
not
you
a war
disagree.
on Bitcoin. Oh my God.
It is very much a negative for Bitcoin. If you want to call it not a war, but yes, a Democratic administration is more of a negative for the industry than a Republican. I mean, that's
Absolutely true. You're right. I agree with you. I've agreed. But the 45 minutes before this, I said the exact same thing. I did. I agree with you 100%. I just think a war on crypto has not been a war on Bitcoin. I think Coinbase's fears are not my fears. I'm not a shitcoiner. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know if you disagree with that or not, but
strongly disagree. I think a Democratic administration would be anti-Bitcoin. Not, of course, they're going to be anti-Solana and coins.
I agree with this.
But they're also going to be anti-Bitcoin. As I've told you, they're going to put Jamie Dimon in their administration. That is the most prominent anti-Bitcoiner that I know of. Name another one. Name another guy who has been more consistently and adamantly against cryptocurrency than Jamie Dimon. I can't name one.
I don't care about cryptocurrency. Chase has been selling the ETF product to their clients. Like, all I'm saying is this war on Bitcoin hasn't affected me at all. And it doesn't like, yes, Brian Armstrong's going through a lot. He's constantly in DC. He's spending tens of millions of dollars a month lobbying and lawsuits. That guy's life has been going through hell. My life, conversely, my business is up over 10x year over year. We're making a ton of money. We're serving a ton of customers. We're growing a lot. We have all sorts of relationships and new prosperous opportunities because I focus on Bitcoin. So I've had no regulatory uncertainty. It's been fine. And so that's just the truth. You want to ask the CEO of a Bitcoin company, that's just the truth. That's the truth. This war on crypto hasn't landed on my desk because I don't sell coins. So yes, Democrats would be worse for Bitcoin than Republicans. That's unequivocally true. Never argued otherwise. I think the war on crypto is overblown to somehow impact my Bitcoiner's life. Like, so far, it's been the opposite. We've gotten regulatory clarity, ETFs, institutional adoption. I mean, this morning there was an SEC filing that the state of Michigan increased their Bitcoin position. So they're now two states that their pensions own Bitcoin. It's like the war on, but yes, there's going to be another Wells notice this morning to some exchange, of course. But anyway, maybe this level of emotion is a good insight into how the United States of America is. Just a lot of emotion, a lot of contention, and the next few weeks will be good because we'll finally get some clarity. Trump is better for Bitcoin, to be clear. I agree on that. Not my point at all.
I think by the next time we record this, we'll have a new president. So be exciting to see how the market reacts.
Well, we'll see. I actually think there's a better chance that whoever loses doesn't concede their defeat. So it'll be progress no matter what. How about that?
Well, we had that happen before, and the transition of power still took place, although arguably not peacefully. But I don't know. We'll have a new president.
Cool. All right. Well, this was a fun one. We'll see how it goes. Hoddle, don't trade.
Peace.
All right.
All right. See you guys.